My brother paid $15,000 to create a fake video of me cheating on my girlfriend. He took my job, my family, and my entire life. But 6 years later, a drunk video exposed him, and now he lost everything I lost. I'm 28 years old. I own a couple of gyms in Portland. I'm married to an incredible woman. I have 4-year-old twins and another baby on the way. And if you had asked me 6 years ago if I ever thought my life would end up like this, I would have told you that you were completely crazy. Because 6 years ago, my life literally fell apart in a matter of days because of my older brother. And when I say fell apart, I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. I'm talking about losing my job, my apartment, my girlfriend, my family, my friends, basically everything I had built in my 20s, and all because of a fake video that my brother paid $15,000 to create. Yeah, you read that right. $15,000 to completely ruin my life. I guess I should start at the beginning. With my brother Julian. Julian is 2 years older than me, and since we were kids, he was always the golden child. You know, the one who did everything right, the one who got the best grades, the one who played soccer and was team captain, the one who went to an amazing university on a full scholarship. I wasn't a bad student or anything. I got good grades and all that, but it was never enough compared to Julian. My parents basically worshipped him, and I was like the backup son. You know what I mean? It's not that they treated me badly exactly, but the difference was obvious to anyone who knew us. Julian could do whatever he wanted and always had their support, while I had to work twice as hard to get half the attention. When we grew up, things didn't get much better. Julian became some kind of successful financial consultant, made tons of money, bought expensive stuff, and my parents wouldn't stop talking about how proud they were of him. I worked in marketing for a medium-sized company. It wasn't anything special, but I liked my job and made enough to live comfortably. The truth is that by that point I had already accepted that I was never going to be the favorite, and I was okay with that, or at least I thought I was. In 2018, I met Amanda at a company picnic, one of those mandatory corporate events that are usually super boring, but this time turned out to be the best day of my life up to that point. Amanda worked in the finance department. I had seen her around, but we had never really talked. She was by the drinks table trying to open a wine bottle that was super difficult, and I offered to help her, and we ended up talking for like 3 hours straight. She was smart, funny, beautiful, and for some reason she seemed really interested in me, which honestly surprised me a bit because she was I don't know, totally out of my league. We started officially dating like a month after that, and things were going incredibly well. Amanda was everything I wanted in a partner. She was ambitious but also super caring. She loved making spontaneous plans like going to try a new restaurant midweek or driving 2 hours to watch the sunrise at the beach. We moved in together after like a year and a half of dating, got a small but nice apartment near downtown, and I honestly thought this was the woman I was going to marry eventually. I had started saving for a ring. In fact, I had like $3,000 saved up and was planning to propose on our 2-year anniversary. The problem started when Julian reappeared in my life more actively. He had been living in another city for work, but he came back and suddenly wanted to reconnect with me, wanted us to go out for beers, go to games together, do brother stuff. At first I thought it was nice, like we were finally going to have a decent adult relationship. I introduced him to Amanda, obviously, and she was super nice to him like she always was with everyone. We started making plans together, the three of us sometimes, like dinners or going out to a bar on Fridays. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. Julian started showing up at our apartment unannounced, always with some excuse like he was in the area and wanted to say hi. He started texting Amanda directly to ask her random things, and she would mention it to me casually, but I didn't think much of it because, he was my brother. Once I caught him looking at her in a weird way when she was cooking, but when I asked him if everything was okay, he said yes and changed the subject. There were signs. There were definitely signs, but I was so happy with my life that I didn't want to see what was right in front of me. In October 2019, my company sent me to a conference in Seattle. It was like 3 days, nothing special. Amanda couldn't come because she had an important presentation at work that same week. I told Julian I was going to be away, and he said something like, "Oh, that's great, hope it goes well, totally normal." I left on Wednesday morning. The conference was pretty boring, to be honest. Just presentations about digital marketing strategies that I already knew. We video called at night, everything super normal. I came back Friday afternoon, like 5 o'clock, I think, and when I opened the apartment door, Amanda was sitting on the couch with her laptop, and the way she looked at me, I immediately knew something was very wrong. She asked me where I had really been, and I told her confused that in Seattle, obviously, at the conference I had been talking to her about all week. She turned the laptop toward me, and there it was. A video of like 2 minutes, and it was me. I mean, it looked exactly like me, in a hotel room with a woman who was definitely not Amanda, and we were, you know, in a very compromising situation, let's say. I was completely frozen, because I literally had no idea what I was seeing. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing because I knew, that had never happened. I told her that wasn't me, that it was impossible, that I had been in Seattle at the conference the whole time, and she started crying and yelling at me. How could I lie to her like that when the evidence was right there? I tried to explain to her that it must be some kind of edited video or something, that someone had done that to make me look bad, and she asked me who the hell would want to do that and why. I honestly didn't have an answer at that moment because I couldn't think clearly. I was going into total panic mode. My hands were shaking and I felt like the apartment was spinning. I begged her to believe me. I showed her all my hotel receipts from Seattle, my plane tickets, the photos I had taken at the conference with the date and location. I even called my boss to confirm to her that I had been there all week. Nothing worked. She was convinced the video was real. She said it looked exactly like me, that my face was perfectly clear in the video, that my voice sounded the same, that I even had the same mole on my left shoulder. I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate. I kept telling her over and over that I loved her, that I would never do something like that to her, that we had to find out who had made that video and why. She told me to leave, that she needed space to think. I stayed on my friend Patrick's couch that night, barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that stupid video in my head. The next day, I went back to the apartment, and Amanda had already packed all my stuff in bags. She told me she had made her decision, and that our relationship was over, that she couldn't be with someone who lied to her like that. I tried to talk to her one more time, but she wouldn't even look me in the eyes. She just kept repeating that she had seen the video, that it was clear evidence. How did I expect her to believe me when there was visual proof of my infidelity? But it didn't end there. I mean, I wish it had ended there. Amanda apparently showed the video to some people from our office, and within days, practically the whole company had seen it. My boss called me into his office, the Monday, and told me that due to the situation and the work environment that had been created, they thought it was best if I looked for opportunities elsewhere. They were basically firing me without saying it directly. I tried to explain to him that the video was fake, that I could prove I had been in Seattle, but he told me that regardless of the veracity of the video, the damage to my professional reputation was already done, and it was better for everyone if I left. I lost my job on a Tuesday. On Thursday, the owner of the apartment where I lived with Amanda called me to tell me that Amanda had told him I wasn't going to live there anymore, and that I needed to pick up the rest of my stuff before the weekend. My friends started distancing themselves. Some stopped talking to me completely. Others sent me messages asking me how I could do that to Amanda, telling me they were disappointed in me. I tried to explain to everyone that the video was fake, but nobody believed me. Absolutely. Nobody. I called my parents thinking that at least they would believe me. Right? Like, they're my parents. They're supposed to be on my side. I explained the whole situation to them, told them that someone had created a fake video of me to ruin my relationship and my life. I begged them to believe me. My mom was crying on the other side of the phone, and my dad told me he was very disappointed. That how could I hurt such a good girl like Amanda like that? I told them to call Julian, that he knew me, that he knew I would never do something like that. My dad told me they had already talked to Julian, that he had also seen the video, and that he was as surprised as they were by my behavior. That's when something clicked in my head. Julian had seen the video. Julian had been super involved with Amanda lately. Julian had always been the favorite, and suddenly everything made sense in the worst way possible. I asked my dad, who had shown Julian the video, and there was a long silence on the other side. My mom finally said that Amanda had sent the video to Julian because he had been giving her emotional support during this difficult situation. I got so angry at that moment that I literally screamed over the phone. I told them that Julian had something to do with this, that he had created the video to get Amanda, that this was all his plan. My dad told me I was being ridiculous and paranoid, that Julian was just being a good brother by supporting Amanda during her difficult time, and that I needed to accept responsibility for my actions instead of blaming others. I hung up the phone and just sat there on the floor of Patrick's apartment, and I think that was the moment when I really understood that I had lost everything. I had no girlfriend, no job, no apartment, no support from my family. My friends had turned their backs on me, and on top of that, everyone thought I was a liar and a cheater. And the worst of all is that I knew the truth. I knew that video was fake, but I had no way to prove it because in 2019, deepfake technology was already pretty advanced, but most people didn't even know it existed. I spent like 2 weeks researching deepfake videos, reading articles, watching tutorials, trying to understand how the technology worked and how I could prove that my video was fake. I discovered that at that time there were companies and freelancers offering deepfake creation services. Some charged thousands of dollars for high-quality videos. I tried to show Amanda this information. I sent her like 10 articles about deepfakes. I begged her to reconsider, to investigate the possibility that the video was fake. She never responded to any of my messages. Patrick was literally the only person who believed me from the beginning. He had known me since college, we had been roommates, and he told me he knew I would never do something like that. He worked at a gym in Portland and told me there was a position available there, that if I wanted to start over in a new city he would help me. I didn't have many options, to be honest. I was running out of savings quickly. I couldn't get another marketing job because my reputation was destroyed. And staying in that city meant continuing to see the judgmental looks from people who used to be my friends. I moved to Portland in December 2019, right before Christmas. My parents didn't even say goodbye to me. I sent them a message saying I was moving, and my mom only responded something like, "Take care." I started working at the gym with Patrick, doing a bit of everything. Cleaning, customer service, helping with classes. It wasn't what I had planned for my life, definitely not. But at least it was a start. The gym owner was a super cool older guy named Marcus, and he never asked me much about my past. He just told me that if I worked hard and was honest with him, I would have a place there as long as I needed. The first months in Portland were probably the hardest of my life. I would wake up every morning and for a second forget everything that had happened, and then reality would hit me again and I would feel physically sick. I thought about Amanda constantly. I wondered if Julian had already approached her, if she had realized anything, if she would ever know the truth. I thought about confronting Julian, like literally going to his house and forcing him to confess, but Patrick convinced me that would probably only make things worse and wouldn't prove anything. Like 6 months passed and I started feeling a little better. Not good exactly, but like the constant pain became a dull ache that I could ignore most of the time. I started focusing more on work, on improving my physical condition, on building a new life, even if it wasn't the life I wanted. Marcus started giving me more responsibilities, put me in charge of some classes, taught me about the fitness business. One day he told me he was thinking about selling the gym and retiring, and asked me if I would be interested in buying it with Patrick as partners. It took us another year of saving and a small loan, but in 2021, Patrick and I became gym owners. It was around that time that I met Rebecca. She had just moved to Portland for a job as a kindergarten teacher, and she came to the gym looking for yoga classes. She was different from Amanda in many ways, calmer, more reserved at first, but there was something about her that made me feel safe. You know what I mean? I didn't tell her about my past immediately. I was honestly afraid that if I told her about the video and everything that had happened, she would think I was some kind of problematic person and would walk away. But after like 3 months of dating, I felt I had to tell her the truth. One night, after dinner, I told her everything, absolutely everything, about Amanda, about the video, about Julian, about how I lost everything in a matter of days. I expected her to tell me she needed time to think, or that maybe this was too much drama for her, but instead she held my hand and told me she believed me, that she could see in my eyes that I was telling the truth. She told me that everyone has a past and that what mattered was who I was now, not a fake video from years ago. We got married in 2022. It was a small wedding, basically Patrick and some friends from the gym and Rebecca's family. My parents didn't even know I had gotten married. I hadn't talked to them since I moved to Portland. Rebecca and I had twins in 2023, Ben and Sarah, and honestly, when they were born and I held them in my arms for the first time, I felt like I had finally found my place in the world. We opened a second gym in 2024. Things were going really well, and although I still thought about what had happened from time to time, it no longer consumed my thoughts constantly. And then, like 2 months ago, I got a message from a guy named Brandon, who had been a friend of mine before all the drama. The message said, "Hey, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but you need to see this." He attached a video, and when I opened it, it was Julian, drunk at what looked like some kind of party or bar, and he was talking to a group of people. At first, I didn't understand what was happening, but then I heard what he was saying, and my heart literally stopped. Julian was bragging, literally bragging, about how he had paid $15,000 to some freelancer on the internet to create a perfect deepfake of me cheating on my girlfriend. He was laughing, saying it was the best investment he had made because he ended up with Amanda just like he had planned. He said he had used photos of me from social media and some old videos he had from when we lived together, that the process took like 3 weeks, but was totally worth it. Someone in the video asked him if he didn't feel bad, and he said something like, "Nah, my brother always had it too easy with women. It was time for him to lose something for once." Brandon had recorded this on his phone and sent it to me saying he couldn't believe what he had heard, that he felt horrible for not believing me before, that he had shared the video with some people, and it was probably going to go viral. And sure enough, within hours that video was everywhere. Brandon had uploaded it to TikTok with a complete explanation of what Julian had done, and people were outraged. I started getting messages from old friends apologizing, saying they didn't know, that they were sorry for not believing me. My parents called me, both of them crying, saying they were so sorry, that they had been terrible parents, that Julian had confessed everything when they confronted him. My dad kept repeating, "I can't believe my own son would do something like this," and I wanted to yell at him that I was also his son, that he should have believed me from the beginning, but I just told him I needed time to process everything. My mom asked me about the twins, if she could meet them, and I told her I would think about it, but that I honestly didn't know if I wanted them to meet people who had abandoned me so easily. Amanda also contacted me. She sent me a long message explaining that she and Julian had started dating like 2 months after I left, that they had gotten married last year and had a son together. She said that when she saw Julian's confession, she felt completely destroyed, that she realized their entire relationship had been built on a horrible lie. She told me she was divorcing him, that he had already lost his job because the video had become so viral that it reached his bosses, and that she completely understood if I never wanted to talk to her, but that she needed to apologize. I didn't respond to Amanda. Rebecca and I talked at length about the whole situation, about whether I should try to reconnect with my parents, about what to do with all the attention I was getting. In the end, I decided that the best thing for me and my family was to maintain the course I had already taken. My parents call me every week now, and sometimes I answer and we talk briefly, but there are no plans to visit or anything like that. I sent them photos of the twins because, they're their grandchildren after all, but the relationship is never going to be like it could have been if they had supported me when I really needed them. Julian lost his job, his wife, basically his entire life fell apart in the same way mine fell apart years ago. Part of me feels satisfied about that, I'm not going to lie, but another part just feels a kind of emptiness. I'm not going to pretend I forgave him or anything like that, because I didn't, and I probably never will. What he did was unforgivable, period. But I'm also not going to spend more energy hating him, I already wasted enough time of my life because of his actions. Amanda told me that her son, technically my nephew, although I've never met him, is going to have to grow up knowing what his father did. I ended up opening a trust fund for the kid. I put like $20,000 in there for his education or whatever he needs when he grows up. I didn't do it for Julian or for Amanda. I did it because the kid isn't to blame for any of this and doesn't deserve to suffer for his father's actions. But I made it very clear, that doesn't mean I want to have any kind of relationship with them. The money is simply to make sure the kid has opportunities despite everything. Rebecca is pregnant again. We're going to have a girl in March. Our gyms are doing super well. We're thinking about opening a third one next year. Ben and Sarah start preschool in a few months and are super excited. My life now is completely different from the life I had 6 years ago. And honestly, although I wish things had been different, although I wish I didn't have to go through all that pain, I wouldn't change where I ended up. Because if none of that had happened, I wouldn't be married to Rebecca. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have this life I built from scratch in Portland. Last week, Patrick and I were closing the gym and he told me, "You know, brother, I know it was horrible what happened, but look at everything you have now." And he's right. I have more than I ever thought I would have after my life exploded. I have a wife who believes and supports me unconditionally. I have beautiful children. I have a successful business. I have real friends who were there when things got tough. The family I chose ended up being much better than the family I was born into. And I guess that's the biggest lesson I learned from all of this. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty. And sometimes real family is the one you build yourself.